Kim, do we have attendance from the last meeting?
Not that I could immediately come up with. No, sorry.
Okay.
Mary, I think it's 12:15.
Okay. Then I would like to welcome everyone to the January 12th meeting of the Rotary Club of Marshalltown and ask Betty Bowler to lead us with the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance.
I'd be happy to. Will you pray with me? Lord, we have endured some very dark days recently. We come to you humbly to ask that you guide us in whatever we can do as Rotarians to help mend the frays in our democracy and strive to make a better world. We thank you for all you have given us. Amen. Now think about the words as we recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
And thank you, Betty. Certainly a good time to be thinking about the meaning behind those words. I know that we do have some guests today. Bob Moore, would you like to introduce your guest?
I would, Madam President, thank you very much. This is my wife, Linda, who is very interested in hearing the topic today. She teaches health psychology as well as other courses, so this is a topic I know she's very interested in.
Thank you. Welcome, Linda. And my guest today is District Governor Steve Dakin from Boone. I don't see him on the screen yet, but I expect he may show up soon. So we'll be happy to have him here. Are there any other guests?
Yes, this is Nancy Steveson, and I am happy to introduce my replacement as a new executive director of the United Way, and her name is Kendra Sorensen. She's online, so you can see her. She's been in Marshalltown for at least 20 years, so I think many of you probably already know her, but her name will be proposed for Rotary, and so you'll be seeing her in the future as I look to retirement on the 1st of February.
Great, thank you, Nancy. Yes, let's welcome Kendra. You want to give us a wave, Kendra?
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm definitely excited to be a part of this group. So look forward to meeting each one of you individually and hopefully in person sometime soon once we get past this COVID situation. So I do see some familiar faces and names on the call. So that's nice to see you guys.
Well, great. We congratulate you on your new role. It's an important one for our community, and we're glad to have your interest in joining Rotary.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Jackie, do you have announcements regarding student Rotarians?
I think that Kyra introduced herself last week, and I don't see any new students here today.
Okay, Kyra, thank you for coming again. Are there any other announcements? I did want to call your attention again in case you missed it in the club runner that A longtime member, Lee Britnell, has passed away. Lee had the longest stretch of membership in our club. He was a member for 65 years, and so I'm glad we got to celebrate him earlier this fall. Any further announcements? Okay, well, I have asked to do a little mid-year update because it is January after all. And so I'm going to start sharing my screen here. There it is. Okay, and you might remember that we started the year out by putting on our 2020 glasses because we were going to have great vision for what was going to happen this year. So I thought maybe I ought to get them out again, see how things looked from January. We started out by talking about the Rotary International vision statement, which says, together we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change. And I'd like you to keep in mind those words: unite, take action, and create change. Rotary International, of course, and our club is interested in doing that not only locally, but across the globe and in ourselves. So the vision I shared with you in July was that I was hoping members would feel more connected and engaged with Rotary on a local basis as well as on a broader scale. And I feel like that fits under that unite part of the vision. And that we would continue to take action, that Rotarians would continue to take an active role in our community service. And if we did those two things, we were confident that we would create change and that our membership would increase in numbers as well as diversity. And we closed with saying each of us can make a difference through our involvement in Rotary. So now it's time to say, well, what did we accomplish so far? First of all, the first thing I wanted to talk about was the fact that we actually continued to meet weekly was an accomplishment given, given the challenges of the pandemic. And we have kind of added in the idea of being able to attend programs via Zoom as well as in person now. And of course, we want to thank Tom and his committee for the variety of interesting programs that we've had during the year. Another accomplishment is we stayed connected with the District 6000. And you can see District Governor Steve and his wife. We added Rotary News and Information highlights. We hosted the governor and other people from within the district, Troy Thompson, Peggy Geiger, Chris Knapp, and we received 2 disaster recovery grants from District 6000. We also welcomed new members. We conducted a successful fireside chat for 6 members, and we welcomed 4 additional new members. That was Andrina Helgerson, Ruth McCoy, Julie Hitchens, and Heidi Drager. And we were able to recognize our current members. We started celebrating membership anniversaries in a bigger way with Rotary Chocolates. We started recognizing perfect attendance during each quarter, and that we had a slideshow highlighting people as members of Action following the duration. And we continued to serve our community through our local charitable contributions. I wanted to make sure everybody in the club knew about all of the things that you have done. First of all, we contributed to the Long-Term Recovery Committee. We were able to contribute to the Riverside Cemetery cleanup efforts and the Animal Rescue League cleanup efforts through the grants from District 6000. We continued with our Warm Coats project and we added boots to that. And we've contributed to the Community Y, the United Way of Marshall County, and we made a 3-year commitment to the Marshalltown Public Library to support their Bean Stack program. During the holidays, we contributed to CERCI, the Salvation Army, Shop with a Cop, and the Unity Point Marshalltown Fill the Rig. And so as you can see, we contributed over $3,800 in our community in the last 6 months. We also served with our actions as people of action in the community. And you can see some photos of people in action here since July. And we helped others outside the community. We contributed to the Safety Homes Project, which is a District 6000 project. We've contributed to Polio Plus and to the Rotary International Foundation, which helps us become Paul Harris members, and the local Rotary Foundation. So an additional $5,970. And I think that's a major accomplishment for our 6 months. And in addition, we helped with our actions and our presence. We had several members who helped Hot Meals USA in Tama serve hot meals following the DeRay show. And we helped distribute USDA Farmers to Families food box distribution in conjunction with the Salvation Army. So I want to assure you that we have already made a difference. But what's ahead? So I have new glasses to launch today. There they are, 2021 glasses. Let's see what we can see through those. Well, certainly the vision is the same. Members feel connected and engaged with Rotary locally and on a broader scale, and we hope we'll continue to take an active role in our community and that our membership numbers will increase. Oh, sorry, I keep doing that. Okay. I want you to know that our club board did set some goals for this year, program year. The first one was an increase in our membership. Currently, we have, as of today, 114 current members, and our goal for the year is 130. So with only 16 more members, we can make that goal. And so if you think about that in 6 months, I think we each need to make a concerted effort to think about people who would be interested in helping us reach all of those goals. And Nancy's already set the pace today by talking with Kendra about that. We also wanted to continue our support of the Rotary International Foundation, which is the Paul Harris goal. And as you can see, again, we've already contributed $3,000 to that effort. Our goal for the year is $7,500. So those of you who give $25 or more a month, make you eligible for the $100 a year for every members, and ultimately get you to be a Paul Harris member. So we hope as you look at your Rotary dues bills, we'll think about ways if you would like to contribute to that. And finally, we want to certainly continue the efforts to eradicate polio. Our goal was we've currently contributed 1,095. And our goal is 2,000. So we're quite close to that, and we want to keep up the good work there. So I think that my vision for the rest of this year is that we will continue to make a difference together. So that's my report. Governor Dakin, I don't know if he is still with us, and I seem to have lost my Zoom people here. But I know he has to say a few words to the club. So hopefully.
Mary, if you could click stop share.
Stop share. Thank you for helping me know what to do here. Stop share as soon as I can find it. Is that down in the corner? No, that's open support chat. Stop share. There we go. Thank you. Thanks for the help.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Governor Dakin, are you on yet? Well, we may have him join us a little later on today then, or at our next meeting. So we are now ready for happy news. We've had some great happy news. Do you have happy news to share today?
This is Betty.
Hi, Betty.
I just want to say that I think your report is really happy news. I think that shows a lot. of what our organization is about. And I appreciate hearing that update of where our contributions have gone. So thank you. That's very happy news.
Oh, thank you, Betty. Bonnie, do you have something?
I do. I have some happy news.
Yay.
I fell on November 29th, and it's been pretty discouraging along the way. However, I went to the doctor this week, I guess last week, and they're actually seeing bone growth now. So yay. So the whole thing is that my kneecap, it broke horizontally. It didn't shatter. But it had a nice clean break. And right after I fell, I went right to urgent care and got right in a brace. And so this is my 7th week in a brace, but my 1st week of saying, hey, there's bone growth here. The break is still evident. You still need to be careful. But at my old age, sometimes you wonder whether or not you're even going to heal. But I've started. So that's my happy news.
That's very happy news. And it's another good reminder of how glad we are to have Unity Point Health in our community, right?
Right.
Yep. Any additional happy news? Tom, do you have some?
I would like to share, this may be a duplication, so forgive me, but it's worth sharing twice or 10 times. You all supported Shop with a Cop this past year and in the past years. And frankly, the small committee is all Rotarians and their spouses. And we raised about $23,000 in 4 or 5 weeks, which is absolutely amazing. And so we not only gave the kids Christmas with toys and food, we also funded some further adventures down the road for Shop of the Cop, like they do some scholarships and they'll do Shop of the Cop back to school. So that stuff's already been funded for this year. So I want to thank you for contributing your time and money. But again, raising $23,000 in 4 or 5 weeks is just absolutely incredible. So thank you, Rotarians.
Thank you. Another good example of us as people of action. Very good. Additional happy news? I'm happy that I see Don Zorni on the screen today. I was able to visit with him following our last meeting where he was recognized for his membership, and we're glad he's with us again and hope that his wife Pat's having a good day. Any additional happy news here? Okay. Deirdre, would you introduce our program, please?
Absolutely, Mary. Thank you very much. And hello, everybody. I'm excited today to introduce to you Milda Mullish, who's the Director of Population Health for the Waterloo region of Unity Point, including here in Marshalltown. Milda is stepping in today for Dr. Adams, who is the Chief Medical Officer for the region, who couldn't be with us. As Director of Population Health, Milda is one of the regional leaders responsible for overseeing the distribution of COVID vaccine to Unity Point Health team members throughout our region. We've invited her here today to share a bit about what is happening in COVID-19 treatment as well as the vaccinations. Milda is a career nurse. She shared today that she has more than 40 years in nursing. She spent the last 24 years with Unity Point Health in Waterloo. She spent 9 years as a helicopter nurse in the Army, and Milda also worked at Marshalltown Medical Surgical Center as an ICU nurse in the 1980s. Milda has 2 adult children. Her daughter is a nurse in Waterloo, and her son is a UNI graduate working in finance also in Waterloo. So Milda, welcome.
Oh.
Thank you all so very much. And I really appreciated being able to sit through the prior presentations. When anybody asked me, how things are going as far as COVID and the COVID vaccines, and if communities have, are stressed, and I always think of Marshalltown because it's not just about COVID for you guys. When I think about what you guys have been through in the last 5 years, you have been through a lot, and I am sure the Rotary has been a big part of keeping the town together and putting the town back together and all of that on more than one occasion. So I thank you for that. I am a critical care nurse by trade, but I think my Army experience and my critical care nursing experience gained me the ability to project manage and do well with that. And so that is why I am the project leader for the vaccine administration for both Waterloo and Marshalltown. And I am going to share my screen here with you. And I think I'm going to stop my video because I just want to make sure our bandwidth is good. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes, we can.
So I want to share with you, first of all, like, hang on, I'm having trouble getting my screen to advance. There we go. I want to share with you what the numbers look like. This actually was several days ago, so I'm sure they are higher today, but I think that it's important that we always keep a pulse on just how massive this pandemic is, with greater than 90 million cases across the world, 22 million, almost 23 million. It's probably over that now in the United States, probably over 300,000 in the state of Iowa. I have Blackhawk County here, and I didn't put Marshall County on there. But I don't get that update every day like I do Blackhawk County, but I am sure that you guys are aware of cases and of people who are sick and have died in your county, and the numbers just keep growing every day. President Trump implemented what's called Operation Warp Speed. And in Operation Warp Speed, that was the goal of that was to deliver 300 million doses of safe and effective vaccine by January of 2021. And I'm sure that many of you are wondering, why don't we have the vaccine yet? Why haven't I received a vaccine? When is it my turn? And the answer to that really is that after $12.4 billion spent and 9 different companies developing the vaccine, we have 2 that are actually able to supply the vaccine so far, Moderna and Pfizer. And thus far, instead of 300 million safe doses, we have in the United States about 13 million doses delivered and 4.2 million doses actually given. And again, that was information from the 31st of December. So we're better than that now, but you can see how far it lags behind what the original Operation Warp Speed goal was. We have groups all over the state of Iowa giving directives. I am probably in about, I would say 2 to 3 meetings a day, either with federal, state, county people, as well as groups within Unity Point Health and the community with other healthcare providers regarding what we should be doing, how to do it, how to best serve the patients in our communities. And so Dr. Padati from the Iowa Department of Public Health has weekly meetings with counties and with other health systems. And I attend both of those. There's an emergency management group for Marshall County with Kimberly Elder. Marshall County Department of Health, Pat Thompson has a group that meets, and then Unity Point Health has several also. So there is lots of attention being paid to getting the vaccines out to people and how we do that in a systematic and safe manner. It's a matter right now of getting the vaccines to give to you. The federal government issued, federal and state actually admitted or submitted 3 things that really help us in this endeavor. One, a federal and state of emergency has been declared across the United States. For that reason, incident command centers are open. And there are many rules, regulations, allowances, waivers, and things that happen to the rules and regulations of government when you are in a state of emergency and an incident command center is open. So things that we might not normally be allowed to do, we are allowed to do under an emergency plan. The emergency use agreement allows us to use the 2 vaccines that we have. So both Pfizer and Moderna have applied for and got emergency use agreements. And we are in process of using both of those vaccines. Pfizer right now, even though Waterloo, Blackhawk County got an initial dose of Pfizer, we have not received any since that initial dose or initial batch. And most of them are right now going to long-term care facilities through our local pharmacy partners like Walgreens, CVS, and a couple other ones. Moderna is what's being used at the Marshalltown Hospital in the what is called a closed pod. A closed pod is by order of the county, via order of the state. And it basically, in a closed pod, the state and then the county are able to tell us who can be vaccinated in that pod and who cannot be. And that is because we are under what's called a vaccine shortage order, which mandates the hierarchy of vaccination. So we are currently in tier 1A for vaccination, which includes healthcare workers. And we are trying to get through the hierarchy of healthcare workers, not just in the hospital, but outside the hospital. And so while we have been vaccinating all of our employees, and we have started to reach out to some community people like EMS service, Wolf Clinic. McFarland is another healthcare entity in your community that's also vaccinating on site in the clinic. And Primary Health is also vaccinating its own staff as well. I believe that Hy-Vee in your community is also vaccinating groups that are designated by Pat Thompson as your Department of Health representative. It's, whoever she puts up next for vaccination is how that works. And so right now we are finishing the employees at the hospital and starting to reach out to a few community groups. We received at the hospital about 500 doses to start with. We were allocated that. So step 1 is the allocation. We complete an application to deliver the vaccine. We have to be registered in the state vaccination repository, which is IRIS. And then the county communicates with us, how many can you use? And we respond, this is how many we have or we can use. We are required to accept the number of vaccines we're able to use. We had 553 employees and providers on our list. We asked for 500 vaccines. We have vaccinated about 270 people. Most of them are our employees. And we are now giving back 100 vaccines to the county because the response to get the vaccine wasn't quite as brisk as we thought. I think that there are quite a few people who are employed that may be getting the vaccine elsewhere or who have already had COVID and they are being asked to take a 90-day deferral before they get the vaccine if they've been infected in the past 90 days. The distribution of the vaccine, Pfizer requires an ultra cold freezer, which the Marshalltown Hospital does not have. So Marshalltown Hospital probably will never receive Pfizer. It is possible though, that maybe your Hy-Vee has that ultra cold freezer or somebody else in the community might have it. But for the most part, we think you'll be getting Moderna or eventually another vaccine that doesn't require the ultra cold freezer. Moderna is stored in a regular type freezer at -4 degrees. It does require dry ice for shipping. It's supposed to have about 10 doses per vial. The boost doses, you're required to get another dose at 28 days after your first dose. And those right now, the boost doses are being automatically sent by the federal government. So everybody is guaranteed their boost dose. As the vaccines become more plentiful, they will not hold back those doses and ship them later. They will just keep sending you vaccines, and you will give a second dose out of the supply you have. Moderna is safe for those 18 years old and up. And Pfizer actually works for 16 years old and up, but to date, there's not a vaccine that's been through an emergency use agreement that's safe for children. The administration of the vaccine is done in the pod, which is a point of distribution. That's what our little clinics are called. They are mandated and controlled by the county, as I said before. Eventually, the plan will be that we will move from a closed pod to an open pod. That means that open pods would be for larger groups, employers, and the public in general. So administration of the vaccine is done in the pod. There's nurses in the pod. There's non-clinical people doing the documentation. There's a pod manager that basically controls the flow of the pod. And there's security available too if we need that, although we have not needed it yet. Most of the people that work in the closed pod in the hospital are people who are doing their own jobs beside. They've stepped up and voluntarily staff the pod as well as doing their own work. And I know the same is true of McFarland and primary health too. Nobody's other work stopped in order to do the work of getting citizens vaccinated. This is what Group 1A looks like by design of the CDC. So if there were critical care staff and physicians, the emergency department, of course, hospitalists, those are the doctors that work full-time in the hospital, all the primary care nurses, anesthesia, respiratory therapy, clinical lab staff. You can see that there's quite a number of people in healthcare that need to be vaccinated. And really, we have not yet received enough vaccine to vaccinate all healthcare workers in the community if they all wanted it. I'm not sure it's a blessing really, but it appears that not everybody wants the vaccine, making it stretch further. And that's why we are now working out into the community to deliver vaccine to healthcare workers there. The phase 1B, which comes right after the healthcare workers, includes firefighters, police officers, the postal workers. It's really the essential workers that hold the community together, in addition to those people 75 and older. Now, I know that we are developing a plan at Unity Point where we will, as soon as vaccines available, we will be contacting our 75 and older group and vaccinating those people as soon as the county gives us the vaccines to do that. So our plan moving forward for that group is to vaccinate them as soon as we can within the clinics. The people in the higher part of that list are still in the control of the county. We're glad to vaccinate them in the pod if we have the doses to do that. So I believe that we're waiting in Marshall County right now on enough vaccines to do all of those people. In phase 1C, it moves from 75 and over down to 65 up through age 74, plus all those people 16 to 64 years old that have some kind of a health condition, and then into other essential workers like food service, transportation, the media, law, energy, etc. Within Unity Point Health, we took this and we actually broke it down by department in our hospitals. So if there were, we in both Marshalltown and Waterloo, we took the emergency department first and all the staff that works there. They're the most vulnerable. People come in with an unknown state of whether they're COVID positive or not. Many of those people need to be intubated or respiratory procedures done. And that, of course, increases risk. You don't have an intensive care unit there in Marshalltown. We did have one in Waterloo and we put them next. You do have 2 operating room sites at the main campus and on the south site. And those staffs were done after that. And then the med surg staff in the hospital. And we just basically worked down through an entire listing of personnel from the top to the bottom. All of the employees at Marshalltown Hospital have been notified of their eligibility for a vaccine. And we are at the point now where numbers of scheduled vaccines are low enough that we would like to start doing more vaccines in the community if given the vaccines from the county to do so. I think that we talked about this already. We got 500 doses, and then other doses went to McFarland and Primary Health. This is just a diagram, if you'd like to see it, of how the pod is set up and operates. There's a lot of safety features built in there, registration, checkout. There's an observation area where people are offered the opportunity to stay afterwards if they're worried about having any kind of reaction to the vaccine. To date, we've had some arm soreness. We've had a few people with a headache. And we've had a few people that just felt a general sense of tiredness, but nobody has had that longer than 12 hours. That's been reported to us anyway. And nobody's had anything yet more severe than that in Marshalltown. We did have one person in Waterloo who reported an itching sensation, and they were treated with an anti-allergic drug, but never developed any hives or any respiratory problems from that. So we're really not seeing very many reactions to the vaccine. Even though we are doing well, by statistics, Iowa is the 5th best state in the nation for utilizing the vaccines we've been given. So in the nation, South Dakota is at number 1, and they are utilizing only 69% of the vaccines they were given. That means 31% of the vaccines are still sitting somewhere and not used. In Iowa, even though we are 5th best, we are utilizing only 54%. And it's thought to be that because we have 99 counties and every Department of Health is different in every county, it is thought that in some of the smaller counties, doses are really sitting without a plan to implement the delivery of those vaccines. The state now has a plan to redirect those doses possibly, or to get a plan into those counties and then not deliver more vaccines to those counties until they have a functional plan, and to redirect vaccines to the counties that are able to use them, of which I think Marshall County is one of them. The worst state in the nation is Georgia, who's only utilizing 17% of the doses they've been given. So, and this data is already from the 4th of January. So it could be better or worse than that by now. As I said, in Iowa, it is, we're at 54%. And is that really enough to, even though we think we're doing well, we've got to be doing better as a state. In Marshalltown, there have been 1,200, I'm so sorry, hang on here just one sec. Yes. 317 people actually accepted. I'm sorry, some of the numbers on the slide are wrong, so I have them beside me. 317 people in the hospital accepted the vaccine. We've delivered, as I said, 252 to employees and another 20 some to community healthcare workers that the county sent to us. 48 people in the hospital declined the vaccine. We do not collect the reason why they declined. And 14 have deferred, which means that they have probably had COVID-19 in the last 90 days. It's thought that people don't like to vaccinate because they want more information. They think they're fearful of a study that was done too quick and they want to see how other people react before they do it. Some people don't like vaccines in general. And some think that they are young enough or strong enough to survive COVID and they'd rather have the infection than take the vaccine. And then there are, and which would be especially true in both Black Hawk County and in Marshall County, um, a historical fact that by ethnicity, groups of color tend to take the vaccine less than people, than Caucasians. That might be because they have less access to the vaccine. It might be because of fear of past experiences, and who's delivering the actual message to them about taking the vaccine. This is historically in Black Hawk County, and I looked for Marshall County data on the public health website, but I could not find any. But usually it's about 10% less in other ethnicities than in the Caucasian population. And it's very important to educate and address those ethnic populations in order to decrease the spread. The next thing that we will do after phase 1 is phase 2, which means there will be open pods in the community where the public will go for vaccination. That is the Iowa Department of Health plan. I am not entirely sure in Marshall County that Pat has published her plan for those open pods. Of course, it will be available in the clinics across the county at some point, where you will just go to your PCP and get your vaccinations. It is still thought that vaccinations will be available and readily available and in surplus supply by June for every citizen in the United States. So we are hearing now that supplies are ramping up, but we don't have a delivery date for when that will happen. But we're hearing in the next several weeks, we could have bigger supplies. In the future, or and not in the future, anytime, no one can be denied a vaccine for an inability to pay for it. And right now, nobody can charge for a COVID-19 vaccine. There is an administration fee that can be charged. But Unity Point at this time is not charging that administration fee. I want to talk a little bit, I don't have a slide for it, but Deirdre asked me to talk about it. I think this would be of interest to you. So what are we doing about people who actually have the virus? If you have the virus and you are mildly sick, we're treating you at home with the same things we would treat people with for influenza, and that's rest. Try to isolate yourself and not contaminate anybody else, not spread the virus, drink plenty of fluids, and report any increase in your signs or symptoms. That's really the home treatment for COVID-19. If it gets to the point where you are having difficulty breathing, you should report to an emergency room, call your actual provider first, and either be directed to the emergency room or to be tested depending on your symptoms. And they're going to check your oxygen level there. They're probably going to do a chest x-ray or a CT scan to look at your lungs and see if you have what is typically called a COVID pneumonia. It's very definable on x-ray. You can tell the difference between a regular type of pneumonia and a COVID pneumonia when looking at a chest x-ray. If you become compromised from a respiratory standpoint with COVID-19 and require the need to have assisted ventilation and go on a breathing machine, you may be placed on a ventilator. And there are other treatments that we implement at that time. It might be what we call proning, which is really, even though you're on the ventilator, we are turning you from back to stomach every 12 hours to give a different surface of your lungs the ability to clear the fluid and the virus and to exchange oxygen in that part of your lung. And so that is why proning is done. The person that it's happening to is unaware of it because they are sedated when they're on the ventilator. But it does take quite a bit of ICU staff, and it takes quite a bit of cooperative work from the whole healthcare team to be able to do that care for patients. The other thing that happens in the hospital, and it may be as an outpatient or as an inpatient, we're giving two types of drugs now. Remdesivir is given mostly as an inpatient, and it doesn't cure COVID, but it lessens the time that you have COVID, and it makes the symptoms of COVID somewhat milder, but it really is meant to decrease the duration of the illness. Excuse me. Remdesivir was originally made to treat the Ebola virus, but we have found that it works for COVID-19 as well. Another drug is mostly used as an outpatient, and that is called bamlanivimab. We call it BAM for short, simply because of the pronunciation of it, which I just stumbled over when I gave it to you. It's called BAM, and people who have tested positive for COVID-19 and have a high-risk condition like COPD, a heart condition, obesity, diabetes, anybody with an ongoing condition should ask their provider about receiving BAM as an outpatient infusion. And it basically decreases the severity of the symptoms by a great amount. So it is a drug that's an emergency use drug that we're using for people who are positive, and we've had some success in that. The availability of remdesivir and BAM are limited. We only get so many doses of them, as they're trying to manufacture them as quickly as they can, and not overstock them if COVID-19 cases start to diminish. But talk to your provider about it, and if there's a dose available for you, they will certainly order it for you. And those drugs are given in both Waterloo and in Marshalltown. I think one very interesting thing about COVID-19 is that there are to date in the clinics, both in Marshalltown and in Waterloo, one thing that we have learned about masking and about social distancing and about being careful at the community health clinic, which serves about 15,000 patients in Waterloo, Iowa, and in the Unity Point clinics in Black Hawk County, we have to date not a single reported case of influenza this year. I want you to think about that. In the United States, we lose about 30,000 people a year due to influenza. And we have not seen a single reported case in Unity Point Clinic or in our federally qualified community health center in Black Hawk County. So there is, when you think about masking and you think about distancing and you think it's not working, it is working. We can't see it as well, and there are a lot of people who are not believing in it right now, but believe me, it is working. So that is all I have, and I would take your questions if you have them.
This is Karen, and I have a question in regards to the vaccine itself. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good. I'm curious about the contamination or the ability to transfer the virus once you have the antibodies or you've had the vaccine.
So we are telling people that they need to continue with masking and socially distancing once you've had the vaccines. The reason for that is not because you are necessarily emitting the vaccine yourself through a cough or anything, but you can be transmitting the vaccine through your hands, through your you touching a surface and then touching your face. It could be anything. You may not contract the disease, but you can still spread it. So we're saying to continue to do all of that until the CDC is dropping the recommendation that we do that. There's more than one way to spread it, and it's not just through saliva.
I have a question. So the booster is in 28 days. And that's the earliest you should get it. But is there a maximum time? I mean, what if you don't get it until 40 days? Is it not effective then? Is there any information about that?
I think that I would tell you that there's not enough data really to say what we've been told is to get you as close to that 28 days and after as we can. Yeah. But if you have not gotten it at 40 days and somebody shows up and says, I still need a booster, we are definitely going to give that booster. So preliminary information says if you get it at 40 days, it is still going to give you immunity. It's still going to be an effective vaccine. But we just don't, when it's kind of like if you give an inch and you take a mile, if people think 40 days works, then maybe 80 or 200 or, whenever works. So we just have to be careful with that. And we are trying to schedule as close to 28 days as we can.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, in light of the time, I would like to say a special thank you for your presentation today. It certainly was timely and of interest to all of us. And thank you for the work that you're doing to help keep us all safe.
Sure.
And we wish you and the others who work with you the very best. Yes. So I would like to announce that next week our speaker will be Julie Hitchens, who's the director of the Community Foundation of Marshall County, and to invite people to join me in reciting the four-way test. Of the things we think, say, or do, first, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? I now declare our meeting adjourned.